Hi everybody, it's Katie from Grandma's House on the Mountain Facebook group and Messy Gardener YouTube channel. So today I'm going to do part 3 of the Down and Dirty of Fertilizer. Now this little small series is just to kind of get everybody's information up to speed, and then as we go along and the seasons change and we get back into the beginning of the gardening, we'll be going through more of that with more demonstrative for you. So instead of just having to listen to me babble, like I said, I just want to get the information out there for you so we can get rocking and rolling when the season rolls around for us to really get going with that. So anyways, I wanted to welcome you all here and thank you for sitting in with us as we discuss Fertilizer Part 3. Hopefully you got a pen and paper handy. If not, you can always replay the video. YouTube typically gives you a transcript as well. So if you can understand, or if it can understand my babbling, I think we'll be good. Anyways, I just want to recap. Last couple times we've talked about make sure your soil is in good condition. It's got to be able to be moving. You got to make sure that you have enough organic material in there. It shouldn't be just compacted. It should be nice and fluffy, a place where your roots want to spread out. Okay, let's assume you've done that. Okay, we've gotten into that, adding more organic material, things like that. Let's also recap real quick what that N, P, and K means on the fertilizer bags. Now there's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We discussed at some length what each of those chemicals do for the plant. Nitrogen is the fleshy material, and I have a chicken visiting me here. So I don't know if you can see her. Yeah, that's Sophie. She's the one that's obsessed with me. So we'll see how it goes. Welcome, Sophie. You gonna come and pull up a chair? Because we're gonna talk about your poop. She wants to talk about her poop with us. Okay. All right. So. Kind of gave you a spoiler there, didn't I? Anyway, so we want to talk about that nitrogen, which is good for that fleshy growth, the green, the leaves, the stems, especially early on in the season, that first little poof of growth that it needs. It's like giving food to a baby. They grow overnight sometimes, I think. But that's kind of what happens when you have a plant that needs some little bit of growth. Now the phosphorus is good for roots and for flowers and fruit. Okay, if you have low potassium, your fruit and your flowers might be small, disfigured, lame, weak. Okay, and those are extreme circumstances, but I've seen it. I've done it. But we learn as we go on, right? I've been a master gardener for 11 years. Just got buzzed by a bird. But I've been a master gardener for 11 years, and I never stopped learning. And I was gardening years before that. But, I don't know it all. But we have a thing called the internet, and what to know, look for. That's kind of what it's all about. Anyways. So we have, you have in some fertilizing bags, you have 5, 15, 10. What does that mean? 5% nitrogen, 15% phosphorus, and 10% potassium. Those are your already blended mixes. Okay, so, and I've also shared with you that I believe personally it is better to under-fertilize something in the beginning until you kind of figure out how it's handling and how the plant is absorbing that or not absorbing that, in case it might be another issue. And then potassium, like I said, potassium is awesome. It's good for the roots, good for a lot of things. In some respects, plays a little bit of part in your pH of your soil as well. So, anyways, so we're going to go ahead, and we've talked about the packages of fertilizer. They come in packages pre-blended for you. Like I told you before, don't waste your money on the exclusive rose only fertilizer. If you want to cheat, read the back of it, find out what the numbers are, and see if there's any other micronutrients like sulfur or calcium or magnesium, and just mix it yourself, right? Or get something that's a no-name brand that's the same kind of mix. You don't have to pay for Ortho's Rose or Jackson and Perkins Rose fertilizer, okay? You learn, and that's okay. Everybody does that. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody pays the big money to the big garden companies, big pharma, without even batting an eyeball because they don't know any better. And that's kind of one of the reasons I'm here, because I am very much, I think I've told you before, a use what you got person. Or do it the cheapest, easiest, whatever way, to get it done without having to break the bank and have my husband yell at me. Anyways, he doesn't yell at me. All right, so went ahead and talked about that prior to that too. So I want to talk about some organic options that you have that you can mix in. One of the things is wood ash. I'm sure a couple of you have heard that, just take the ashes out of the fireplace, spread it in the yard, no problem. Yeah, you could do that. That's a very good option. But there's a few things you need to know about that before you do that. So wood ash, the nutritional value of wood ash is based on what kind of wood is burnt. Okay, hardwoods typically have more nutrients per parts per million than softwoods. A cord of oak weighs more than a cord of Douglas fir. The other cool thing is that the hardwoods also contain a higher percentage of those nutrients. So a cord of oak wood, when you've burned it, okay, meets the potassium needs of a garden or a space 60 feet by 70 feet. So it's 4,200 square feet, right? So if your garden is 4,200 square feet, then a cord of oak will work great for that section. Now, if you're burning a cord of Douglas fir, it's good. Still just good. Just you have a smaller amount it's good for because the nutrients are less. The amount of ash is less that you get out of a Douglas fir than you get out of an oak. So that's only going to go as far as a 30 foot by 30 foot garden at about 900 square feet. So you got to, take and give. And then also it's very important to test your soil for that before you start messing with that. So the other thing that's really cool about wood ash is that both hardwood and softwood contain enough calcium and magnesium to reduce acidity in your soil. What else do we need in our soil, or what do we have in our garden that also needs calcium and magnesium? Tomatoes, right? Might be something to think of. All right, but it also helps with your pH. Also helps lower the acidity a little bit. So the elements in wood ash are water soluble, so keep it in a dry place because it'll disappear. Wet ash, it's gonna disappear, guys. And when you do it, if you do want to apply it to your soil, you want to make sure you work it in. You spread evenly and work it in. Everything is work it in, guys. Pretend you're kneading bread or twisting dough. Just woof, woof. Okay, so that's how you want to work stuff in. Or take your shovel and dig it in and flip it. Dig it in and flip it. Sounds like a song, doesn't it? Dig it up and flip it. Anyway, but you know what I mean. Work it well into the soil. Okay, you don't want to have clumps. A clump here, a clump there, a clump everywhere, a clump. You don't want that, right? And the reason is because it causes excess salt to leach into the soil. And it causes a very bad environment for the roots of the plants. So you have to be careful with that. Okay, you got to make sure it's spread evenly and worked in well. Okay, so you do not want to apply to acid-loving plants such as blueberries, rhododendrons, and azaleas. Do not add wood ash. Okay, just because of the fact that it does mess with your pH more so than the nutritional value of it messing it up. I got birds flitting around here, so if you see the creatures, enjoy. I love it out here. It's like living in a state park sometimes. All right. Anyway, so let's get back to, if you use ash when you plant potatoes, not a good idea because you could end up with that potato scab fungus. And let me tell you, I've had it. Your plants are gone overnight. Just poof. I was like, what happened to my plants? Man, I don't have that darn potato fungus. Tomatoes as well. You don't ever place your potatoes with your tomatoes without lots of years separating the two if you want them in the patch. If you want to, replant this year tomatoes instead of potatoes, you got to wait a couple years because that virus and fungus is not fun. So you want to make sure you do not use it where you're going to put potatoes because of that. The other thing, you don't want to use it on newly germinated seeds. I think I need a cup of coffee. Something. Diet Pepsi. Well, it is warm today, so maybe I'll take a Diet Pepsi. Anyways, so you don't want to put it on newly germinated seeds. Okay, so that's not safe. It's not good for the plant. It's not good for you. It struggles. It's overload. Now, let's talk about what ashes are safe to use. You just don't want to drive up, dump whatever, your friend's burn barrel had in it and bring it over and dump it on your garden and spread it around. No. You don't want to use any ashes from coal, from lead painted or pressure treated or other type of treatment wood, ashes from fireplaces, stoves, or barrels that are used to burn trash. So, if you have a fireplace, a wood stove, something like that, you don't burn trash in it, you're all right. You could use that. But I'd say anything maybe other than a piece of notebook paper type burns, I wouldn't, I wouldn't use ash, from a fireplace. You burnt boxes, especially frozen food boxes. Trust me, I know. I had a fireplace. Okay, sometimes you burn stuff just because it's too cold to go out to the recycling pile. Anyway, so those ashes of the area, from coal ashes, from any kind of treated wood, pressure or otherwise, I wouldn't use in my garden. I would not use anything that was from an area that was used to burn trash. So you got to think about these things, because forever plastics, God only knows what. Okay, we got to worry about this stuff now. We got to worry about this stuff, which kind of stinks in some ways. You think we'd be a little bit more responsible with God's creation, huh? Yeah, well, we kind of messed that one up, didn't we? Alrighty, so the next thing I want to talk about is grass clippings. And grass clippings are gold. Gold. I do not have a lawn clipping bag on my riding lawnmower. I have never had one on our push lawnmowers. We have a mulching blade, which cuts it up smaller, and we just let it lie on the front lawn where it belongs. And I tell you what, after 12, 13 years living here, our lawn dirt is really good. Throw that in a smattering of chickens every once in a while. I got good soil for the most part. I do have to deal with clay though. But grass clippings are gold. They're good for the compost pile. That's where I use them a lot, although I'm starting to go into using them a lot for weed control. One of these days I'll give you guys a full view of what I got to deal with. Yeah. Anyway, so you want to make sure that you use grass from where you know it was grown. Okay, if your neighbor offers to give you, hey, you want my free grass clippings, yay, celebrate. But before you fill up your wheelbarrow, find out if they use herbicides, insecticides, or whatever they use on their lawn. Just say, hey, is there any history of your lawn? Was there a spill? They may look at you and go, what? But it gives you a peace of mind that if they say, oh, no, I didn't use that stuff, or I don't believe it. Oh, yeah, I use Roundup all the time. And then you go, well, you know what? I think I'll leave it and pass on this time. Because, you know, yeah, you don't want to step on people's toes, but we're talking about your health here. You know, especially if you're using it in a garden or fruit trees that you eat from. You know, and I have a bunch of herbs and natural plants that grow around me that is food or medicine or both. And I don't want to put grass clippings that have been grown or cut up or sprayed with, you know, and spread it as my organic compost fertilizer. No. So that's the one thing you want to make sure. I know I went off on a tangent. I apologize. That's just, I guess that happens. But you know, you want to make sure you look into that. The other thing you got to worry about is you don't want to use fresh grass clippings from a weedy yard. If your neighbor says, "Oh yeah, come on over, get all that," and you know there's all kinds of, and a lot of weeds out here are good herbs and good medicine, but they are also invasive, and some of them are very hard to dig up. And, you know, and some people don't want that in their yard. You know, it's okay. Like I have a few of these plants I love, but I don't want them everywhere. I have them in one little space. Okay, so when you're getting that fresh grass clippings from your neighbor or your friend or even your own, okay, that's you got to look at that. You want to let it age. Or put it in a compost pile, which the heat of the compost pile should kill any kind of seeds on that. That's one thing you got to worry about too. It is a good source of that potassium. I mean, you're looking at, but Katie, it's green. It has nitrogen. Yes. It's also better it's also great with potassium as well. So, you know, we can use that as well. It's not an issue. Okay, now as promised, we get to the manure section. Now, I've been talking about this with you guys for the last, what, three episodes? Well, I guess, yeah. I guess this is the third episode. So, yeah. So, we're going to get to manure today. Yay! The poopy side of the video. Okay, I'm weird. All right, so with manure, one of the cool things about manure is that it will modify the soil structure and aid in its water holding capabilities. Yes, it's even better than the nutrient part of manure. It is almost, they're pretty, you know, close on what they do for plants. It's either to the soil or to the plant, but either way, you both get the benefit of that. So, extremely variable in nitrogen. Different manures, they're very different. You could take as little as 20 pounds of chicken manure or poultry manure and spread it over a 100 square foot garden, or you could have as much as 150 pounds of manure. There he goes. He has to come over and say, I don't know if you can see him. No, you might be able to see him. So he comes back. What are you doing? Being obnoxious. So anyway, so you want so each, backtracking a little bit, each type of manure from the different animals are variable in their nitrogen. Okay, so let's say you have a 100-foot square garden. That 100-foot square garden will only need 20 pounds of poultry manure versus 150 pounds of other manure mixed in with bedding to fertilize the same amount as the poultry did. Okay, so it varies. It varies a lot with that. 50% of the nitrogen will be lost when it's in storage or pretty quickly after it's applied. The best way to save the amount of nitrogen that is present in the manure as a fertilizer is to spread it in the fall and work it into the soil immediately. Okay, work it in, you know, your shovel this time, please. You are allowed to use a shovel for manure. I will let you. I'll give you permission to use a shovel or a hoe, any other part that you don't have to use your hands. All right, so you have to make sure you put it down in the fall. Okay, spread it evenly, work it into the soil immediately. Thereby you're preserving the most nitrogen for it. The manure, a lot of times, will have weed seeds in it and may have been in contact with symphyllins, if I can pronounce it correctly. It's an insect that is not good for the roots of your plant. So another reason to put it down in the fall, let it age over the time, because then those bugs won't be there. Okay. Do not use fresh manure in vegetable gardens or anything you will eat raw, or even the potential of maybe eating raw. Why don't we just say don't use fresh manure at all in your gardens? That's probably the best thing to say, because that really should be the way it is. You got to age it, because otherwise, ew, do you know how much bacteria and whatever's in there? No, don't do that. Don't do that. That'll have organisms in it that have not been killed that will make you sick if you eat that food raw, unwashed, or, well, sometimes even washed. It has to be cooked. All right. So I have the little chart, and this is where I was mentioning a pen and pencil. I'm thinking of typing it up and putting it on Grandma's House on the Mountain Facebook page. So you can always look that up if you're not part of that, and have the little chart available there for you to use. Yes, it's deep diving, very scientific-ish gardening, but you know, if you want the best and you want to know more, and I want to make sure you guys know, you know, sometimes there's health hazards. You got to worry about that. Okay, so real quick, we're just going to go over dairy cows. The amount of water in dairy cows is 87%. The amount of nitrogen is 0.50. The amount of phosphorus is 0.16. And the amount of potassium is 0.44. But if you have beef cattle, they're a little bit different in the beef cattle. Anybody kind of figure out why? Maybe they're fed differently. Yeah, because their goal for processing those animals are differently than they are for dairy. So the feed is going to be different. It just makes sense, right? So in your beef cattle manure, it's 82% water, 0.65 nitrogen, so a little bit higher on the nitrogen but lower on the water, 0.43 in the phosphorus, which is pretty good above dairy cow, and the potassium is 0.53, which is also higher than a dairy cow. But I look at it this way. You can get manure, whether it's dairy or beefers, get it. We even have bison farms up here that I might be able to get some. I don't know. I think I got enough chickens. I don't think I need bison, but there is that opportunity out, out here, and in your areas you might have to search. There might be a bison farm that'll sell you, some of its manure, or does sell its manure. So that's, I don't have the percentage, but I'm guessing it's pretty close to the dairy and the beef cattle manure. So let's go into the poultry. Poultry's water content is 73%, so a little bit more efficient animal, water efficient anyways. Their nitrogen is 1.30. The amount of phosphorus is 1.02, and the potassium, or the K, is 0.50. So you see the two places where poultry is just above all the others, heads above on the nitrogen and the phosphorus. Not too shabby. Sheep is the only one that's bigger on potassium than they are. Okay, so the next one would be swine. Piggies, boars, oink oinks. All right, so we have 84% water, 1.45 nitrogen. So they actually are a little bit higher than poultry, surprisingly. I was not aware of that. So their nitrogen is 1.00. Their, I'm sorry, wrong one. I'm reading the wrong one. the swine was 1.45 for nitrogen, right? 0.27 for potassium and 0.40 for potassium. The other one, 0.27, was the phosphorus. Okay, so we've gone through the dairy and the beef cattle manure. We've gone through the poultry and swine manure. Then the sheep, okay, is 73% water, 1.00 nitrogen, 0.36 on phosphorus, and 1.00 on potassium. Horse is 60% water, very HDO efficient. less water in that one. 0.70 for nitrogen, 0.25 for the phosphorus, and 0.10 for the potassium. So overall, looking at this, I wouldn't even mess with horse. That, and I don't recommend putting, and I'm sure there's people that disagree with me, I just don't have enough knowledge of horses that I would put it on my vegetable gardens, unless it was aged by itself in a pile. I know you lose half of it, but I'm paranoid. I'm paranoid, you know? Yeah, so that's it. But I will try to put this up, type it up in a nice little chart format for you. And I am starting the research and writing of the mycorrhizae information video I had talked to you about, saying that mycorrhizae is this fungus that creates a symbiotic relationship with the plant's roots. And what it does is, think of it as basically it extends the roots reach out. And the two of them, it finds food and water. And as it's finding its food and water, it also is the plant, the roots that are connected to this are also getting the benefits of the found water and food, nutrients, whatever. Okay, so we'll be getting into that. I'm starting, like I said, the research / script writing, if I can say it's that. It's more like just me jotting notes down. Sometimes I know what I'm going to say. Sometimes I have to read off the card. But you will always get the real me. I promise that. You will always get the real me. All right, guys. I'll get working on that mycorrhizae, and we'll be seeing you soon. And there's been some really cool things going on, so maybe there'll be a porch talk showing up here soon. All right, guys. See you later. It's Katie's from Grandma's House on the Mountain Facebook and The Real Messy Gardener. See you later.